Well, welcome to We Were Gamers. We were just chatting about episode 101. If you haven't heard it, I think it's worth a listen. We tried to play Orion Prelude. I got some messages, JJ, that people were excited because they have multiple tens of hours in that game.
Wow.
Listeners.
That is a surprising amount of time playing that game.
Again, you could at one point get 7 copies for $1. I'm not surprised people have it.
No, that's not the part that's surprising me. The part that they've played it for tens of hours is the surprising part. Not that I didn't have fun with you guys. So I guess maybe I should take that back and say that, yeah, it makes perfect sense. If you have a group of friends that would play that game together, it could probably be pretty fun.
I think that if you actually played it, like if you really took the time to understand the mechanics unlike we did, you could probably get pretty far in it.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. Moving right along. This is not a numbered podcast. This is going to be something special. Welcome to We Were Gamers, a side pod? What do you want to call it?
Yeah,
sub pod?
Yeah, like a sub series or a subspace transmission, perhaps.
I like that. Subspace transmission. I was thinking more along the lines of like backtracking or backtrekking.
That's also
like
very good.
Subspace might be better.
I like backtrekking also.
So we often get these extra episodes out, call them bonus episodes, or sometimes we do interview episodes, or sometimes we use our extra record day to pre-record for vacation days. But we wanted to create a series, a little subspace series about Star Trek, JJ.
Yeah. A topic that is, I think, pretty near and dear to both your and my hearts.
Always dear, very close to near at all times.
And, has been not... it did come back recently. There has been a Star Trek show in the universe recently, I guess.
Discovery is just filming season 2 now. And the first series has ended for Discovery. So I believe at some point very shortly I will probably subscribe to their CBS All Access for 1 month and then binge watch it.
I was just going to say I also didn't watch this most recent series, which is the first time that's happened. I've watched all the Star Trek series except for this one so far.
I have seen, I believe, every available Star Trek thing. All the like side things by Tasha Yar and by William Shatner and all those things as well.
I've definitely skipped some of those documentaries and stuff that they put out. I watched at least one by what's her actual name? By that Tasha Yar put together, and there was a series by William Shatner, like about all the captains or something that I watched that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was fun. Where we went and interviewed every other captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so needless to say, I think that both of us, I was turned off by CBS All Access a bit.
Yeah.
It took me a little bit of time to get over that and make the plan of, like, I'm going to only pay for 1 month of it.
Right.
And I know that they've spent some time retconning the Klingons again, but the look change also kind of made me wary of that show. But it got pretty rave reviews, so as a Trek fan, considering I've sat through 3 J.J. Abrams movies of this series, it's probably time to bite the bullet and watch it.
Yeah, the reason I was not excited to keep up with it was I didn't like the kind of like grim and dark turn they took with the universe and the series, like kind of the tone they were going for. We'll talk more about that and kind of like why I like Star Trek and stuff as we go along here, I think. But the show just didn't... It looked like a lot of other narrative shows that are out there today. And the thing I like about Star Trek is that it's not like those shows.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be the first... This is the intro, maybe, episode to a series of pods on Star Trek. And we're going to do topics big and small. Specific characters at some points, probably. Specific episodes at some points, probably.
Yeah.
All sorts of different topics will pop up on this, and I'm not going to say that this is going to happen weekly.
No.
It's going to happen maybe monthly.
It's going to happen infrequently, and, you'll know when it does, but no guarantees.
But we love Trek, and it's time to do some pushback, some Trek back. I don't know. I'm still workshopping this, but I think you nailed it with Subspace, because there's too much Star Wars, man.
Yeah,
not enough Star Trek.
I agree with that, and Star Wars is great. Let's not try and say that it's bad or anything.
Look, no one is going to try and. Well,
There are bad parts of
Star Wars.
There are bad
parts of Star Wars, and
right.
I reserve judgment on Solo until seeing it. The new trailer looked better than the first trailer.
Yeah.
And the side stories have been better than the main stories.
In the one side story that is released at the time of this recording, that's true. So,
Yeah. But I mean, we're inundated in Star Wars, and I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I think that it's fine to be inundated in Star Wars, but it has become a cultural lexicon for most of the United States and every nerd. And Star Trek's still a little bit nichey. I mean, we got some Chris Pine, we got some big budget movies, but those are over, I believe, right? They're done.
Yeah, I don't know that they're making a fourth one after the way the third one performed. So, I think the thing that that Star Wars does that Star Trek doesn't, or actually, I'll flip that around and say the thing that Star Trek does that Star Wars doesn't is Star Trek has like a hopefulness about the future that Star Wars does not have. Right? In Star Trek, humanity was able to get over its problems and solve a bunch of the quote unquote mundane stuff, world peace and hunger and all these kind of big societal problems. We figured that stuff out so that we could go explore space, right? That's the premise in Star Trek, and that's
kind of, but we don't forget that the world basically ended in Star Trek, and that's why things changed, right?
It's not like it's all good or anything, but the basic premise of what happens in Star Trek is aspirational. You're like, oh look, this is we want to get here. Look how wonderful this is in the future. The future is a good thing.
Aspirational versus inspirational. Star Trek is keep fighting the good fight. It will eventually get better, but they're always fighting, kind of.
Yeah, of course there are still struggles, right? Human nature still exists, so, that kind of stuff still happens in the future as well. But, you have, humanity has kind of risen above where it seems to be in the modern day, right? And that's a really powerful message, and I think I really feel strongly that that's a great thing to, aspire towards, and, it's hopeful, right? And there isn't a lot of that feeling when you watch Star Wars. Not that it needs to have that, but it's trying to do a different thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes when you're watching a Star Trek episode, and we have the caveat that we have not seen Discovery.
Yes,
but across series, and even still in the J.J. Abrams movies, which take a completely different tone, right? Which you will have to at least do some episodes on those. There's always a feeling of being set into a universe of story, right? Star Wars, yeah. I'm always feeling like I'm watching a 30% of it feels documentary in a way. This is what happened to the Rebel Alliance. This is what happened to,
Well, I mean, the whole, the very first lines of every Star Wars movie is a galaxy far, far away and a long, long time ago, right?
Yeah.
So it's this is a historical record of something that happened in a place completely removed from you.
Yeah.
Star Trek is this is happening in theory, the space right around you. You know where this is.
Right. You just slingshotted around the sun, and now you're here. I mean, enjoy the future.
That's how time travel works. Everyone knows that. I
don't know why they don't do it more. I mean, they did it in a janky Bird of Prey.
Andrew, there are a lot of time travel episodes in Star Trek.
No, I know, but if you could just do it by slingshotting the sun.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it wouldn't be that tough.
That Bird of Prey was shot up pretty bad, I remember. They took it off of a planet that was full volcano.
Yeah, it was blowing up.
And then they just shot it around the sun, and they put whales in it, and they shot it around the sun again. I feel like you could easily build a ship to just keep slingshotting the sun and send researchers all over time and space without having to worry about some sort of crazy-ass time war.
Yeah, I mean, spoiler alert for, a 25 or more year old movie.
No, look, always
Star Trek
spoiler
4 Save
alert.
the Whales.
Hey, should we do we worry about explicit on these? I don't know.
I don't know either.
Because sometimes, definitely when we get to J.J. Abrams, there's going to be some hemming and hawing about whether to curse.
Yeah. Well, we can cross that bridge as needed, I guess.
I don't mean to make it sound all bad. There is good stuff that came out of those movies.
I genuinely liked the first one that he did and enjoyed the second one. And I don't remember a lot about the third one at all.
He rides a motorcycle in the third one. The third one actually might be the best story-wise of them, to be honest.
Is the third one where they crash the ship into the planet?
Yes.
Okay.
And the old spoilers, the old crew is there, and they've mutated.
Yes, they'd been there for tons of years and now are evil or whatever.
And we know why that one's possibly the craziest story that I thought might be the worst and then ends up being the best is because it was written by Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
And then directed by Fast and Furious. I'm just naming movies instead of the people that did them.
Justin Lin is
Justin
the
Lin
director.
and Scotty. What's
Simon Pegg?
Simon Pegg. Yeah, Simon Pegg wrote it.
Yeah. And man, I'm really conflicted about that one in particular.
It's crazy, and it's crazy in kind of a off-putting way.
Yes.
But at the end of it, I was kind of that might have been a Star Trek movie.
Yeah.
People really struggled with some actual moral choices and
yes, and that was the part that I liked the best about it. That's one of the things that I feel that that Star Trek tries to do is they try to have a moral I don't know if a moral compass is there, but they definitely try to tell you there's some sort of morality side to everything, right? It's not just good guys, bad guys. In some cases there could be justifications. There's shades of gray at times, and you have to parse, what is good and what isn't, what should be allowed and what shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. And much like the Overwatch universe, where everything seems like it's all on the up and up all the time, then there's the black side of it, the Black Watch of it, the Black Ops.
Yeah, definitely. The people that are handling the other side of the treaty negotiations, right?
Mm-hmm, right. We actually started that war over there so that it would protect us because they're fighting each other, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And yeah, that third movie is just, I enjoyed watching it a lot.
Look, that whole series of oh, by the way, I remembered that I had heard something about the fourth movie and it happening. I didn't look it up because we don't do research, although we probably should start doing research for the Star Trek stuff.
Yeah, we probably will have to do that.
We'll have to do a little bit, but the fourth movie, the thing I heard about it was Quentin Tarantino maybe directing.
Oh, okay. I mean, sure. Why not?
It sounds like that was happening, but that was the last I heard of it, and I think that was sometime at the end of last year. Was like Quentin Tarantino went to J.J. Abrams and said, "This is the Star Trek movie I want to make," and since he's somehow still in charge of that, I think they said yes to it.
Huh. Well, I mean, I like Christoph Waltz and stuff. He could be Star Trek.
Look, so let's see. It'll be Christoph Waltz, Sam Jackson. It'll be Christoph Waltz, Sam Jackson.
Who else is in it?
Uma Thurman.
Uma Thurman, yeah,
definitely will be in it. That's your top three.
Yeah, I mean, so that should be interesting.
Christoph Waltz, villain or captain? Or captain villain? Or
well, he's really good as villains.
I don't know. He was pretty good in the Magnificent. What is it? Or
are you talking about Inglourious Bastards?
No.
He was a villain in that one.
No, the cowboy one.
Oh,
wasn't he in that one?
The Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight. He's in Hateful Eight.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But he there's no
good guys in Hateful Eight. I guess.
that movie just has people in it. There's no you're not on a side.
I don't know. Sam Jackson's probably the good guy in that movie. He's not a good guy, but he's definitely the protagonist.
I mean, he was a good guy in Django Unchained.
Christoph Waltz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We will see. I mean, I would be all for having put Sam Jackson in the captain's chair. Let's see how that goes.
He'd probably have to have a purple captain's chair, though.
Yeah, and they did kind of already do that with Sisko.
No, Sisko's a different thing entirely.
I mean, he's a very different thing, of course. He's not the same kind of person at all.
No, yeah, they would be different people. I feel like... Because Sam Jackson brings a very particular thing.
Yeah, he does.
While Quentin Tarantino often has him in extremely varied roles, I feel like if you're doing a period piece in the future, he's kind of going to be a little bit strictly limited unless he's just not a Starfleet officer, you know? And then
that's true. Yeah, he could just be a guy.
Oh, Sam Jackson, full makeup alien might be interesting.
I was going to say Sam Jackson is a Ferengi.
Ooh, a reimagining of the Ferengi or something like that. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. I think in the J.J. Abrams Star Trek verse, we haven't seen a lot of the typical alien races yet, right?
Yeah, definitely. They've gone Klingon and whatever the heck all those aliens were, and and there's the nondescript.
We've seen that green alien and he was dating for a little hot minute in that one movie.
Simon Pegg's engineer buddy,
right? But we haven't seen the other Vulcans. Trek universe stuff. We've seen Vulcans, yeah, but we haven't seen Romulans. We haven't seen. The Ferengi.
Oh yeah, you've seen a Romulan. Although they were the Romulans from the previous universe, but
oh right, but people knew they were Romulans, so that must mean Romulans exist, right?
Right, sure. All right. Well, we got a little off track there. Thanks, Christoph and Quentin. But
yeah, well, I don't know. It could be fun. I'm always willing to listen to ideas about a Star Trek. So.
Hey, they've got a sandbox and time. Might as well play with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, neither of us have seen Discovery, so that will definitely probably, I love that phrase, be a part of this going forward at some point. We'll have to have watched all those. And
yeah, we'll definitely make watching that a part of this at some point.
I'm excited about this Subpod, man. We talked a long time ago about doing this, and it's finally happening. And I'm in. I'm all the way in. It's so good. I was really excited when I finally finished watching all of Star Trek. It took years to go back. Because, I've seen all of The Next Generation. But now I have seen all of The Next Generation,
Mm-hmm. Like in recent memory, as opposed to just like over the course of 10 years or whatever.
Well, and there's, Voyager was one of those things that if you missed a week, who cares? So, going back and watching all that just to make sure that I really had my right feelings in mind about that. And anyway,
Voyager, man, yeah. Okay, so like maybe we start here. Why don't we each do a stack rank of the various series that we have seen? Okay, just to kind of give people a
off the top of my head stack rank, because I have complicated feelings that might tie one or two series, but I could do it. It's fine.
Okay. Acknowledge
top
ties
to bottom or
where
bottom
they
to top?
exist.
Top to bottom, that's easier because TNG is at the top.
Right, it's going to be easier, right? Yeah, TNG at the top.
Okay.
For sure.
Next Generation's at the top. Maybe it's not the best looking. Maybe it's somewhat the most campy even.
And maybe the first season or two are actually kind of bad.
They're bad in a good way.
I agree with you.
Because as a crew, they set up that hey, Riker's here, Crusher's here. They all kind of feel awkward around each other because, and then it kind of comes through a little bit with the actors,
And then in the second season, Crusher leaves,
and then Yar dies, and then all of a sudden the crew's legit. And
Riker grows the beard, and then the show is good.
And then when Worf is tactics officer all the time, the show nails it.
Mm-hmm. But I agree with you. To be clear.
Yeah, you can't.
TNG is the best one.
Yeah, you can't not rank TNG at the top because of the rest of it. Absolutely. Everything else, other than the original series, plays off of TNG the most, I think.
Yeah,
right. Even the movies that are based off the original series, I think their basis of emotion and understanding what the Federation is probably still sit more in the Next Generation universe than the original series universe.
And, they were being made contemporarily, I think, so that, makes some amount of sense, right?
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you don't really... When you watch the original series, you get an understanding that the Federation exists, you get an understanding of how the aliens all coexist and stuff, but really...
Yeah, they don't really delve into that much.
Right, there's no internal politics. There's no, I mean, there is, but there isn't really, There's enough to do the story of the week.
Right.
And while Next Generation was story of the week, it was interconnected in a way that built the universe.
Yeah, and they did have, relationships and stuff that would go throughout seasons or, plot lines that would last 2 or 3 episodes long.
Right.
And it would sort of build the universe as it was going along, even in the kind of week-to-week format.
But the TOS crew didn't get the Federation until the movies, right?
Right, totally.
Yeah. Then they were about the Federation because those movies started to come out at the same time and they built the universe together. And that was kind of cool.
Very cool, yeah.
So TNG's at the top. I'm going to guess we're tying on number 2 as DS9.
Yeah, I think so also. DS9 is a show that when you first watch it, if you really like TNG, and maybe if you've seen the original series also and you're watching DS9, you're kind of well, they don't go anywhere.
Well, that's kind of untrue, but yeah.
But the premise of the show, right, is it takes place on this space station near this one planet, Bajor, and so then you get a lot of Bajor and the politics of the space station and what's happening, and it doesn't have as much potential it seemingly doesn't have as much potential for the wacky week-to-week hijinks of new aliens and new situations and stuff for the crew to be put in. But I think as you watch it, that turns out not to be true.
I don't think any other series challenges the morals of society currently and the Federation society harder than the DS9 does.
I agree. They kind of let them do some stuff that they couldn't do in that week-to-week format with DS9, where they had even longer running conflicts and stuff that spanned whole seasons rather than just a few episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the what was it, like 6 or 8 episode arc of them going to the bad universe and then dragging people across universes accidentally. And
yep, and they literally the entire Federation went to war for like a season and a half at one point.
Yeah, with the Dominion and then the Cardassians.
Yep.
And the implications of what happened to an entire, like the Dominion, they defeat, and then what happens to the Cardassians? They become an actual like defeated people. What would it be like if they had defeated the Klingons in a way that didn't allow them to join the Federation, right? Like, what do you do with a conquered people, sort of thing?
Yeah, it definitely poses a lot of questions. And then, like with the Bajor Cardassia occupation situation, like how do you deal with a planet who, sort of wants retribution for the harms that have been put on them, right? By these other people, and like dealing with that whole thing. There's a lot of religion in DS9, which isn't in the rest of Star Trek really at all.
Right. It's very harshly and definitively scrubbed from the previous series, right? Like, that's not part of the human future.
Right. Kind of like intentionally left out, right?
Right.
And
you get the like somewhat feeling of judgment from Gene Roddenberry that, he doesn't have a very generous view of religious practice, I don't think.
No.
Maybe I get that wrong, but...
no, I think that's true. He did not view religion terribly brightly. But you do see some of it cropping up from the Bajoran people here in DS9, and that's while not all bad, I think the religion is also not treated maybe necessarily as a complete good most of the time.
And yet,
it's often used as
Cisco,
a tool for a lot of bad things, right?
Right, yeah. But it's still... it's not completely discounted because of the way, the series ends and everything.
Oh, totally. It is a large factor in the end game of that show, and also definitely like a part of the series throughout. So, you get some good and some bad there.
And it also explores, it really explores fatherhood and in multiple characters. I mean, Worf and O'Brien and Cisco and
and that was definitely something you did not get in the original series or TNG at all.
You got Crusher and Wesley for a little bit of time. They struggled to keep the storylines with Wesley. They didn't hit it every week like they did here, right?
Right. Well, they explored, maybe like what it's like, a little bit like what it's like to be a single parent in TNG, but you get it a lot more in DS9.
Yeah. And I don't know, and it really explored the first time, I think, like TNG, they are on this mission forever. They got themselves on a huge spaceship and the families live there and everything's hunky-dory and they're exploring the universe.
A crazy idea. Why are you taking your kids out into like deep space and all these dangerous locations?
It's insane. It's an insane thing, and people get killed in those shows, and
yeah, they do.
And they never really explore the morals of dragging families out into space, etc., and what it really would mean to be disconnected from terra firma for so long. And
sure.
And DS9 explores that through, the whole like baseball and everything else. Where what does it mean to leave your home for forever, basically?
And like Miles and his wife, and the struggle they go through with them being, apart for so long and then coming back together, and it's a big thing, they explore some of the more human consequences of some of the stuff that TNG sort of laid out as a given, right?
Right. Yeah. So yes, we have these mores, these social mores, but do we still struggle even though we know that our captains will try and make the moral choice, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's why DS9 is good. Okay, so we've got TNG. So we've got original series left. We've got Voyager. We've got Enterprise.
I think those are the three other ones.
Yeah, we can't rank Discovery.
because we haven't seen Discovery, right?
Voyager. And we're doing this on the spot, so I have to try.
Well, so I can pick what I think would be the third one. And I think I'm going to pick the original series here, and not because I think Voyager is worse, but because
Voyager is worse than the original series.
Well, man, there are some episodes.
I just think just categorically, for me, the original series comes before Voyager on every stack rank. I don't know where they come on the list in relation to Enterprise yet.
I think that both of them are okay series. I think the problem with the original series now is that it was it's old TV, and a lot of it does not hold up. But then there are parts of it that not only hold up, but are like way better than a lot of things from a lot of the other series, right?
So my issue here is, so Voyager's...
And I don't think there are episodes of Voyager that are like that. So that's why I'm going to put...
Let's workshop this for a second. Voyager's dead last for me.
Ooh, wow. Okay.
So I don't know if Enterprise comes before TOS or after, is my struggle here. And we'll go through it, but let's leave TOS third for now.
Okay.
When it's good, it's so good.
And there are episodes of the original series that are probably just classic TV episodes, period.
There's no way to best Trouble with Tribbles or Khan.
Right. And the, what's the episode? It's like the Mind's Eye one.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the name of that episode?
I think so.
It is. There are just a few episodes that are of the original series that are just like landmarks for television. Just like episodes of TV that are formative and challenged what you... Mirror. Yes, thank you. That was the other one I was trying to think of.
The first interracial kiss on TV.
Totally. And you have to, and then putting aside, those special episodes, there were just a lot of like not very good ones beyond that, right?
Right. There's just flat out garbage.
Yeah. And, it is only 3 seasons long, so it's shorter than most of the other series.
5 if you add in the cartoon.
Weird. I don't.
Oh, okay. Well, I have seen the cartoon, by the way.
I have not, by the way.
Okay, so that's dead last.
Okay, that's good. That's good to know.
Dead last. Voyager is better than the cartoon.
The format of the TV back then and kind of the monster of the week kind of thing and the way it worked out is just that series doesn't hold up in a modern viewing, except for some of these very special episodes which do, right?
But so
it makes it tough to recommend that someone these days watch the original series all the way through.
Sure, you don't need to watch it all the way through, though.
And
There's
I
no
agree
through
with that.
line.
You don't.
So you could pick and choose. That's what's kind of good about it, right? Like you can't pick and choose from Voyager. There's a lot of it you need to watch to understand what the heck happened to them and where they're going, what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who are these people? What is this? What's the Delta flight? You just like show up and you're like, okay, there's Borg. Why are there Borg?
Yeah.
There's a lot of struggle that could happen if you jumped around and tried to watch. Maybe if you cut Voyager down to only the story, it might get better. Maybe I should do that. I don't know. But
skip all the like in between parts and just go to the big like season ending events.
Maybe. I don't know. But what's interesting about the original series and why you probably have to rank it third is that despite the camp, despite the fact that it's old TV, the only way to quote unquote remake it is to do a different thing. You can't Kirk again.
Right. And the performances and the thing that they put together with that show, it can't be done the same way again because everyone will just go, well, they did it better.
Right. So
and that's a high bar, right?
Carl Urban's version of Bones is not the same. And
right. He is not Leonard McCoy, right? No. And he's not the same guy as was on that show. How could he be, right?
Yeah, in 3 movies, you're never going to have the rapport of 3
Zachary
seasons.
Quinto is not Leonard Nimoy, right? And he can't be Spock that way. To the point where like they had Spock in that first movie to like let you know that he couldn't do that.
Right. He's in fact, might be the best part of those movies.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's really good. He's just not that. None of them are who the actors are, right?
Right. Totally.
Anyway, you can't. Yeah.
It's
all right.
Yeah. So it makes
original series struggles for a lot of reasons too. Is like we know the values of the Federation, but again, we know them from Next Generation and other things like that.
And it didn't exist at the time of that show.
They existed in Roddenberry's head, and they existed how he wrote it. The characters behave according to the codes that we officially get laid out later.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's people wanted to watch to see the adventures in space. They didn't, they didn't want to watch to see, Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
The modern, not the old, right. The old Battlestar Galactica suffers the same problem. It's adventures in space.
Yeah. So, I don't know how, again, for that reason, it's really tough to say like to a modern viewer, like, hey, go watch the original series. It is formative and you do need to see some of it because of the history there.
Sure. Space Seed, definitely you have to watch.
Yeah. Definitely. So, that's where it comes third on my list. If you want to swap it around with something else on your list, that's your prerogative, of course.
Yeah, no, it probably has to sit there, but Enterprise has to come next.
And I think I'm going to break with you on that. I am not a big fan of Enterprise.
Interesting.
But I want to hear about it. Let's go over Enterprise. And I think, there's only 2 left. So, if I don't put Enterprise next, I'm putting Voyager next. So we'll talk about Enterprise now. So let's do it.
It's a bad show.
Agreed.
But it's also a great show.
Okay. I don't know if I can go there with you.
So, like, TNG has bad episodes, but is always a great show. Even those first 2 seasons that struggle, you're like, oh, man, I know some of these episodes are good. Some of them are mediocre, but it's all good, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the long run.
Right.
DS9 has some real stinkers of an episode or 2.
There are some bad episodes of DS9 for sure.
Some storylines you kind of like, cool, there's this like religious struggle happening, and also Miles O'Brien is trying to trace a short circuit and hijinks ensue, right? Some weirdly balanced episodes, but overall the nature, the spirit of the show, not just in like the religious nature of it, but just the spirit of the show is so strong you can't ignore it. And then original series is too classic, you can't outdo it. There's an effort in Enterprise, and unfortunately it creates a lot of problems because they did this, to return to the feeling of original series wonder, but at the same time like ground themselves in DS9's kind of gritty nature. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think I understand what you're trying to say there. So I guess for people who maybe don't know, the setup of Enterprise is that it is a prequel. Like it's the first ship named Enterprise that takes place in the past,
01,
before all the Federation really was a thing, and before humans had really gotten out deep into the world, to the universe and space flight and stuff. And so, it's all this kind of like proto versions of technology that you see later in Star Trek.
And one of the very good things about it, there's a lot that's bad about it. The Klingons are wrong.
It's very wrong.
Yeah, the
Vulcans are like really, really dumb.
No, so here's where I think the series is trying to do something and kind of successfully does it really well. Vulcans are who they are in those movies we got from J.J. Abrams. They are arrogant,
right?
Because they are superior. They are actually superior, right? Like they still have technology they're holding back. Humans have not explored much space, right? We meet Andorians for the first time. We meet lots of races for the first time. And like later on, Spock participates in Starfleet because we have Starfleet. Here, T'Pol is basically like a minder, right? She's trying to like make sure they don't get into trouble and they don't step on anybody's toes, and they don't have the Prime Directive. Scott Bakula is the reason we get the Prime Directive.
Yeah, because he screws stuff up so much.
Yeah, but in a way, like he discovered.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, in a way, they discover who they want to be in this show, and that's the aspirational thing that I think they tried to do. And while a lot of the episodes are bad,
and there are so many bad episodes,
there are
really bad plot lines. But
a lot of it is kind of cool in the building of what they attempted to do, I think.
So then I have to talk about some spoiler stuff here, because I think everything that you said is true, except then at the very end of the show.
So good.
Skip ahead 5 minutes if you want to not hear this.
Okay, so this is the last 5 minutes of the series. So
they rob the entire series of any meaning whatsoever.
They don't.
They do, though.
I disagree with you entirely.
They make the entire series a holodeck program that Riker was playing, which means it was fiction and made up. And so none of that stuff mattered.
No. I disagree with you. It's a historical program, so it was very inaccurate. Sometimes is what you could guess, I guess. But it's cool to think like, okay, yeah, that's right. We have this holodeck thing. People do historical reenactments of the Old West.
Sure, they did a lot of that. Indeed.
Why wouldn't they have done reenactments of basically their own time, right? Like
space, 100 years ago, Space Captain.
Right. And
200 or whatever.
And to have had it set up since the first episode. Right? Like you never see the chef, not once.
Yeah.
So they've had it there the whole time. Nobody saw it, right? It's pretty cool.
I don't dispute that. At the time, I thought it was a very cool twist. I think that the twist robs the show of a lot of the meaning that it would have otherwise. And that's the part that I dislike. That's why I'm not just that reason, but like that is one of the reasons why I rank it lower. Like if they had just ended the show, and then like that had been the end, like they didn't have him turning off the holodeck at the end, then that would have been probably for me like it would be a better series. Like the stuff that happens in it would have more weight.
I think the weight is equal. The stuff happened, right? He used what he knew
but like,
about
the crew. I don't know what parts of it are exaggeration. What parts of it are the holodeck person having the sexy lady be there? Like that's the stuff that I think that show trips itself up on, and then because of the ending, now I don't trust.
It lets me write off some of the bad stuff immensely.
I mean, yes, because that's really good that you write off all the stuff that happens with T'Pol in like the last 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, there's like Vulcans going into heat. That's weird.
And oh my god, it's so bad.
It's really bad.
So bad.
But I think that thinking to Riker using a program to make a moral decision, or like to to understand better how to be a better captain by going back to these types of things. Like you can imagine him also going to like doing Kirk stuff. And,
sure. Yeah, totally. All of that is well within his character, like stuff he would actually do.
Yeah.
So like from that side of it, I don't have a problem with it. I think it just kind of undermines all the fiction that they built, and that bummed me out.
I guess it allows it to exist with its flaws, in my view, right? Versus not being why Voyager comes last and why the cartoon comes last is because their flaws do not get washed away by anything else in the show.
Mm-hmm.
And there was so much. There was character in the characters that really, really just doesn't. And we'll go to Voyager next, basically now, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, you can just talk
whatever
about
you want to
Voyager.
say about Scott Bakula. He's certainly a captain you can remember.
He has a lot of characteristics,
Right. I don't really know how to describe Scott Bakula captainhood, right? Other than definitely struggling to find their way, and maybe even himself as a captain the whole time. But it's nice that they had this character that was haughty and bullheaded and proved that the Vulcans and humans needed to work together better because they were both going to struggle otherwise. That's what we got out of it. And we got side story later that says, like, okay, cool. So this guy goes on to become a great captain and basically helps form Starfleet, right?
Right.
And Prime Directive, etc. So I think it's important as a show and much more important than Voyager. Let's move on to Voyager.
All right. So getting to Voyager here. Voyager suffers from a problem of a lack of, like, identity, right? It's a Star Trek show, but then they set it in... The setting of the show does the whole show a disservice in that it removes you from all the Star Trek stuff that you know and love. And intentionally, I guess. And it makes the show worse for it, right? You don't get any Federation stuff because they're on the other side of the dang galaxy, and it's impossible to get there.
There's a lot to aspire to like here, right? Like, it starts off, and half the crew is a bunch of criminals, essentially, because of the way that the show starts,
and that part of the crew coming together and, like, becoming a real crew and stuff is probably, like, some of the best stuff in Voyager.
It honestly could be the only good part of Voyager, and was just ignored at a certain point, right? Like,
well, because that problem kind of goes away. They integrate over the time that show takes place, and there are, like, a couple time jumps in that show of, like, by the way, 4 years pass or whatever.
Yeah. Look,
I mean, I'm not defending it. The show in general has a lot of really bad episodes, and some of the actual worst plot lines in all of Star Trek. There's one where, like, the captain becomes a lizard. It's so bad.
I'm glad that Discovery took on trying to have another female captain around.
Yeah.
Because there need to be more of them.
It was a big deal at the time.
It was a huge deal at the time.
When Voyager said, hey, we're going to have Janeway be the captain, Kate Mulgrew.
Yeah.
And it was... People were like, whoa, a female captain? Is that a thing? And
I think she's a strong actress. I think she's a quality choice for captainhood. I think this show suffers from leaving her in the Delta Quadrant and not...
Right.
There's just like her...
The Delta Quadrant conceit is what kind of sinks the whole show overall, right? Because you get to see... And the fact that they're kind of like journeying towards home means they can't really stay in any area of space very long.
Right.
And so you don't get to see the same kind of dynamics that develop with the Federation and the other various members of the Federation and stuff.
I also feel like her character suffers from developing and changing only on ship, really, right? Like, yeah, they explore the Delta Quadrant, but they hardly ever leave the friggin' ship. And so, like,
they go down to planets,
I know,
like, not
but,
infrequently
like,
and stuff.
Her
But
character development happens.
The show happens on the ship. Like, that's really the downside that you're saying here, and it's true. Like, most of that show takes place on board that ship.
Right. And that ship would be limping across the Delta Quadrant. You'd need to find safe harbors and like take breaks and give your crew, and she develops basically on the holodeck by falling in love with some Victorian era dude, and that's just a real failing of her. They failed her. She didn't fail them. Because she could have been. Okay. There's a world where Chakotay really teaches her how to be a guerrilla fighter in the Delta Quadrant, right? Like, the skill set of the Maquis is what should have saved the ship, and instead it's Tom Paris doing shenanigans on some sort of ship they hijacked from somewhere, all the time.
Yeah, it's not that like Chakotay and B'Elanna and stuff don't get their chances to shine, but also like you're right in that they do a lot of like standard TV stuff where like, oh, we luckily found the one weakness of this thing and just at the right time. Okay, great. Now and we can take off and get out of here.
Tuvok just sucks.
Tuvok is better than the other people on that ship, like Neelix and Kes. Kes, who leaves the ship in like a extremely bizarre incident. Tuvok isn't great.
Can we just agree that EMH is the best part?
Yes. The Doctor is great. The Doctor is one of the best characters on that show.
I think the EMH has to take the cake on...
the emergency medical hologram.
Yeah, the emergency... So because their Doctor dies...
Their Doctor dies, and then there's a hologram who looks exactly like the Doctor, who is now the Doctor of the ship.
So what?
And he's constantly put out by everything they're doing, and it's wonderful.
And you get essentially like Data 2.0, right, where they leave him on all the time, and so he's not meant to be left on all the time. And
so he gets bored.
Well,
he's and please turn me off. I don't know what to do.
Turn me off. I don't know what to do. I can't leave the stupid room. My program is degrading from being on all the time. There's a lot of interesting stuff that happens. And I think if the show were half as long as it was and they'd rewritten the Maquis Starfleet relationship to struggle more and really like, okay, the Maquis actually took over the ship and the Starfleet people have to like come to them rather than like Chakotay becomes a Starfleet officer and is now a rigid second in command.
I think I didn't feel like it happened as much that way, but I think the big problem is more that, that show suffers from being a weekly show, and the idea of that show would be good as like a couple movies or a modern TV series where there's really only focusing on the narrative. And you get 3 seasons or whatever, and then you can be done with the whole series. It should have been
a Netflix series, 12-hour movie.
It could have been a 12-hour movie Netflix series instead of a 7-season
slog through the Delta Quadrant.
Yeah. And then, 5 seasons in, they introduce 7 of 9, and the show is just, why?
Yeah.
It doesn't get better once 7 of 9 gets introduced.
What's interesting about it is because 7 of 9 is an extension of interesting stuff that happened in TNG and
the stuff that they did in TNG is like 7 of 9 has the same situations, and they covered it in one episode in TNG, right?
Yeah.
Or over a couple, becoming part of the collective and being separated from it or whatever.
And really, honestly, if the Delta Quadrant was overrun with Borg, shouldn't that have basically been the only villain the entire time?
Well, by the end of the show, that's what they were doing.
Yeah.
But you're right that, yes. It's just, a lot of problems. And, the writing of the show doesn't do it any favors in those respect. And I think that's why you can rank it pretty near the bottom of this list.
The cartoon is worse.
I've not seen the cartoon.
Okay. So
I don't really consider it to be Star Trek TV.
It's there. It exists. It's a thing that happens. None of the episodes mean anything. They're not connected to anything else. I'm going to just put this so far down the list, like anything else that comes forever in Star Trek is above it. Doesn't.
Yeah, that sounds right.
The voice acting is bad. The animation is worse. The shows mean nothing. It's just bad. All right. Well,
Well,
there you go.
That
Stack
gives
rank
people
episodes.
Yeah,
Star
it
Trek.
gives people a little insight to how we feel about the series as overall. And we talked a lot about the movies up front. I think people got a pretty good
There's so many
feeling.
movies we didn't talk about, though. So
Well, we talked about the Abrams movies, not about any of the other ones.
it's just because they're so fresh and they're so different from everything else, and
they are,
and they're really
totally
important to talking about like where Star Trek is going and where it's been. In terms of they're a foil, right? Rather than comparing them to like Star Wars the whole time or whatever.
Yeah,
they're so different. Yeah. So next time we'll have to take on either the other movies or anyway, we'll keep exploring the Star Trek universe.
That's right. When we come up with another Subspace transmission here, we'll have something for you all.
Nice.
But in the meantime, if you want to contact us, there is podcast at weweregamers.com. That's an email address, and we read it.
Mm-hmm.
We're also at weweregamers on Twitter and Instagram, and you can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/weweregamers. Leave us hot reviews and the iTunes and Google Play stores. We really appreciate those. And did I forget anything?
Who is Spock's mother in the movie? Is that Winona Ryder?
Which movie?
The first J.J. Abrams movie.
Zachary Quinto's mother?
Yeah.
Or Spock?
Oh, good point. Well, Spock's mother is always Spock's mother, I guess.
Okay. Do we see her in that movie?
Yeah.
Gosh, I haven't seen that movie in a while. I need to go rewatch it.
She dies on that planet. She gets blown up by a laser or something. Right? She doesn't get beamed
Isn't that
up.
the second movie?
No, that's the first one. That's one of the problems with the first one. Like,
the first one is the one where
hey,
they
I'm
blow up
J.J.
Vulcan?
Abrams. Bye-bye, Vulcan.
Okay.
See?
I guess you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Man, there are problems with that.
More to leave you with for next time, everybody.